A man's character. So, today's technical day. Testing out a couple of things in today's technical day. Obviously, I'm working on my chain progressions. Working on the wedge to pause, deadlift, where I'm kind of pausing at the top of that rack position. Not rack. Yeah, almost like a rack pull type deal. And then eventually working my way up to the lockout, right? And so one of the things that I focused on doing today is making big jumps. Okay, there was a study that Pavel referenced in the Plan Strong material, where I believe it was Professor Ermakov, who is he's a pupil of Professor Vorobiev. Vorobiev is one of the authors of the Soviet weightlifting model, right? Which is this whole concept of, this variable overload method that I switched to after the first week, where I just crash and burn the first week of this program, because I was trying to follow more of an auto-regulated approach when I kicked off this deadlift series, and it just did not work. And so, anyway, in that study, Ermakov does a study with several athletes, right? And the controlled group, what they focused on was sharp changes in load. Okay, sharp changes in load. And load can be described in a couple of different ways. So load can be the actual weight, right? Or the intensity, right? The actual weight that you're lifting. Load can also be the total volume, right? The total reps, sets, etc. But in this, in the context of load here, it was more of the changes in intensity. And what they noticed was athletes that saw these sharper changes in load, volume, I'm sure were big sharp changes, but also intensity. These sharp changes led to a 61% increase in performance. And not only did it boost their performance, but it also, these athletes came to training fresher. They had less injuries compared to the test group, who was following more of a, more of like the traditional powerlifting, like American powerlifting method, where you kind of create this inverse relationship between volume and intensity, right? Volume goes up, intensity goes down, intensity goes up, etc. And vice versa. And they were making these small changes in load from, let's say, session to session, week to week, month to month. These smaller sessions, they came to training more fatigued, under stress, and just were not as healthy, right? And so that's one of the things that I focused on in today's practice session. Previous session, I had 24 lifts. Today, I don't even know how many total repetitions I did, but I just focused on big jumps, right? So I've got 145 on the bar here. So technically this is like 135, but I used those powerlifting / weightlifting collars, and each of those are 2.5 kilos each. So just by me putting those collars on, it adds 10 pounds. So this is actually 145. And then my next jump here was another 45-pound plate, which took me to 235, which was a 38% increase in load. After that, I go from 235 to 325, which is 3 plates per side. That's a 27% increase. And then after that, I made a few smaller changes. I went 325, 335, 355. So that was like 3% jump, 5% jump, and just kind of feeling it out how I lifted from each of those. And then after that, I went to a 10% jump. I went from 355, 395. That's a 10% jump. And then 395 to 425. That's a 7% jump. And that 395 to 425, man, that was a very fast set of pulls. Then I went to 465, 8% jump, and then 485, 4% jump. And 485 right now is about 87% of my maximum. And then I had a PR, which you'll see here in a little bit. I had a PR 505, which is about 91% of my current like estimated max, which was a 3% jump. And all I did was just focused on the wedge. And I want to say I got the weights to break off the floor at 505. So I know I'm onto something big here by just focusing on getting good at the deadlift, focusing on my posture, my positioning. And man, you'll see here in a little bit, I get the weights to break at 505, which is about 91%. So I know that if I can get that weight to break at 505, man, I'll be pulling 600 here pretty soon. But anyway, I want to share something today about, and so what all this has to do with the man's character, right? Man, the freaking wedge it's exhausting. The wedge, if you practice this long enough, just getting in there with those heavy weights and really just digging in, the wedge is exhausting. It demands a lot of energy, and it will test your character. And that's something that I want to kind of touch on today. I want to share one of the readings with you. So what I've been doing, one of the things I started adding to my morning practice, my morning ritual, is a daily wisdom piece. And it's just amazing. As I started adding this daily wisdom piece, it has been almost every day has been lining up perfectly with the readings for the day, right? And so, and when I say a daily wisdom, I'm reading the book of Proverbs. And so in the book of Proverbs, these are essentially call them like golden nuggets, wisdom, pieces of wisdom, that you can use for everyday life, right? Ultimately, these are to increase virtue in you, helps you to acquire more knowledge, right? And so what I do is I'll read one proverb, but sometimes I'll have to read like a few passages for it to kind of all make sense, right? Because sometimes one verse kind of cuts off, and you're like, what's the meaning here? And so today's proverb was chapter 2, verses 9 through 10. And the proverb says, "Then you will understand righteousness and justice and equity, every good path, for wisdom will come unto your heart, and knowledge will be pleasant to your soul." So I'll read that again. "Then you will understand righteousness and justice and equity, every good path, for wisdom will come into your heart, and knowledge will be pleasant to your soul." So I guess maybe, to better understand that, let me go back a day, just for some context here. Here's from the day before. This is Proverbs 2, 6 through 8. And he says, "For the Lord gives wisdom. From his mouth comes knowledge and understanding. He stores up sound wisdom for the upright. He is a shield to those who walk in integrity, guarding the paths of justice and persevering the way of his saints." And so I believe it was John Paul II, he said, the object of one's knowledge must be truth. The object of one's knowledge must be truth. Well, who is truth? God himself, right? God is truth. God is unchanging. The church, through God's word, always teaches truth on faith and morals, right? We don't always like it, which is why many people leave the church. But so because God is truth, from him comes knowledge, right? Comes knowledge and truth, okay? Because he is truth. And so I'll show you how that kind of ties into the second one, right? So based on that, then you will understand righteousness and justice and equity, every good path, for wisdom comes into your heart and knowledge will be pleasant to your soul, right? So the previous proverb stated, "For the Lord gives wisdom," right? From his mouth comes knowledge and understanding. And so that part right there really stood out to me because St. Paul in the New Testament talks about how faith comes through hearing. Faith comes through hearing. And that's a very important piece because a lot of times we get caught up in this Bible alone. Where do you find that in the Bible? The Bible is essential. Like it is one of the most powerful tools, instruments, of God's revelation to us, right? But here's the thing. There was no Bible in the days of Jesus. Like most people couldn't even read, right? People that knew Latin and whatnot in the church, they were like the privileged ones, right? So most people couldn't read back then. So how did they acquire the faith? Through hearing. They had a teacher. So essentially what all this comes down to is you must have a teacher, a teaching authority to teach and educate you on faith and morals. And that's what the church is. That's what the Catholic Church, the one holy apostolic Catholic Church, is. That's what it does. It's an institution, the institution founded by Christ, 33 AD, that imparts knowledge and understanding, right? And so faith comes through hearing, not reading, okay? Which means we need a teacher. We need a teaching institution. And so as a consequence of hearing the Lord's voice, right, in prayer, in reading, in contemplating on his word that I'm hearing, right, through a teacher, as a consequence of that, wisdom will come into my heart and knowledge will be pleasant to my soul. So these are things that I kind of think on. Again, I don't have all the answers. These are the things that I'm connecting the dots, I guess, if you will, right? And so here's how this daily wisdom kind of ties into the readings for the day. So I'm going to, give me 1 second here. So the readings, this was from yesterday, February 27th. So the first reading is from the book of Sirach. If you have a traditional, air quotes, Bible, you're not going to have the book of Sirach because it's not I'm not going to get into all the details and history of it, but essentially, when the Protestant Reformation happened, they removed, I think it was 6 or 7 books from the Bible. Okay, long story, but those books should not have been removed. Okay, so the original books, so the Catholic Church said it is the one that put the Bible together. The Catholic Church, the church founded by Christ, founded on Peter, the rock, said these are the books that are going to go into the Bible. Okay. And then Martin Luther broke away. Not a guy to be looking up to, by the way. Left, and all kinds of things fell apart. So if you don't have the book of Sirach in there, you need to find yourself a Catholic Bible, and you'll have all the original books that were intended to be in the Bible in there. So the book of Sirach, it's also a book of wisdom. Okay. It says, this is chapter 27, 4 through 7. When a sieve is shaken, the husks appear. So do one's faults when one speaks. As the test of what the potter molds is in the furnace, so in tribulation is the test of the just. The fruit of a tree shows the care it has had. So too does one's speech disclose the bent of one's mind. Praise no one before he speaks, for it is then that people are tested. All right, so a lot to unpack there. I'm just going to touch on the next reading real quick. This is from St. Paul, letter to the First Corinthians, to the first letter of St. Paul to the Corinthians. He says, brothers and sisters, when this which is corruptible clothes itself with incorruptibility, and this which is moral clothes itself with immorality, then the word that is written shall come about. Death is swallowed up in victory. Where, O death, is your victory? Where, O death, is your sting? The sting of death is sin, and the power of sin is the law. But thanks be to God who gives us the victory through our Lord Jesus Christ. Therefore, my beloved brothers and sisters, be firm, steadfast, always be fully devoted. Who's here? Always fully devoted to the work of the Lord, knowing that in the Lord your work, your labor is not in vain. A lot to unpack there. And then the last one, in the Gospel of Luke 6:39 through 45, Jesus just kind of goes on he drops some knowledge bombs here. He says, Jesus told his disciples a parable. Can a blind person lead a blind person? Will not both fall into a pit? No disciple is superior to the teacher, but when fully trained, every disciple will be like his teacher. Why do you notice the splinter in your brother's eye, but do not perceive the wooden beam in your own? How can you say to your brother, Brother, let me remove that splinter in your eye, when you do not even notice the wooden beam in your own eye? You hypocrite! Remove the wooden beam from your eye first, then you will see clearly to remove the splinter in your brother's eye. A good tree does not bear rotten fruit, nor does a rotten tree bear good fruit, for every tree is known by its own fruit. For people do not pick figs from thorn bushes, nor do they gather grapes from brambles. A good person out of the store of goodness in his heart produces good, but an evil person out of a store of evil produces evil. From the fullness of the heart, the mouth speaks. So lots to unpack there. So just, some initial thoughts there. When the sieve is shaken, husks will appear. So do one's faults when one speaks, right? So to me, this is character, right? Character building. When a man is challenged, like making these huge jumps that I made in the beginning, 30% jumps, 10% jumps, like getting in there with that wedge, doing this deadlift thing every single day. We're already 43 plus days in. As of making this video, I'm actually on day 59, day 60. A lot of these days are character building days, right? And so when a man is challenged, right, when a man is going through hard times, his character is revealed. Is he a quitter? Does he give up easy when times are bad? Is he a cheater? Right? So how a man acts behind closed doors, right, will be revealed when he's under pressure. Right? I don't know if this is a saying or where I heard it or if I read it or if I came up with this on my own. I have no idea. But there's a saying, you want to see a man's true character, give him money and power. Then you'll know a man's true character, right? And this is one of the beautiful things, this is one of the things I love about Jiu-Jitsu, is Jiu-Jitsu reveals a man's character. When times get tough and the world throws a spinning heel kick to your family jewels, when a time gets tough, does the guy give up easy? If someone gives up easy in jiu-jitsu, because you're going to get your butt kicked every single day, so, same goes for me. Sometimes I'm the hammer, sometimes the nail. I'm the nail. If he gives up easy, guess what? He's going to do the same thing with everything in his life. When life gets tough, we've got pandemics, we've got all kinds of crazy stuff going on in life. Do we give up easy? Do we push people that we love, people that we love and people that love us, do we push them away? It's not comfortable getting in here and wedging with 505 pounds, right? But I know that it's these little things that I do every single day, that are going to have a huge impact on my deadlift, that are going to have a huge impact on how I show up for my family. Like I got the bar to break here at 505. Never have done that before ever in my life. What do they say? Like diamonds come from pressure, right? A coal under pressure, right? So in jiu-jitsu, like you can just really see what a man is made of. Jiu-jitsu is all about problem solving. Jiu-jitsu is very character building. So is strength training. So is the barbell deadlift, right? I mentioned, like, it doesn't care how you feel. You're either going to figure this thing out, or you're going to quit and give up and jump to the next shiny program because this got tough. If you're doing a snatching a kettlebell is probably one of the hardest things you can do, right? One kettlebell movement. You start a snatch plan because, I want to do the Secret Service snatch test, or I want to do the snatch test, or I want to do whatever. And then you start snatching and you're like, damn, this is pretty hard. I'm just going to jump to the next program, right? Or enter whatever program that gets tough. You learn a lot about a man that way. And here's where things get dirty, right? Sticky, interesting, is you quit once, quitting becomes easy to do it again. I quit on one thing once in my entire life, and I'm not proud of it, but it's what built my character for today. I quit high school, dropped out of high school, thought I knew everything. I was paying bills. My mom got divorced from my stepfather, and we're basically back to a single parent household. And I was already paying rent and whatnot. So I was like, I'm already paying rent. I think I know everything. I might as well just get my own place. So at 17 years old, dropped out of high school, moved out, got my own apartment, and became an adult. Only to realize the errors of my ways. Went back, finished school, while working, etc. But I quit that one thing, and that thing left a taste in my mouth that I'll just never forget. So once you quit something, it becomes really easy to quit. Once you quit on your diet after a week and it gets hard, it's gonna be easier to quit over and over. If you quit a gym membership or you quit a program, it becomes easier to quit because your brain is always keeping score. And the problem is, once you quit and you do this on a regular basis, it becomes, like I said, easier to quit. But here's the thing: you eventually get really good at losing. You get really good at losing because our brain is always keeping score, right? When you quit something because something gets hard, life gets hard, your brain goes, up, that's one mark against Hector, right? And so a man's character is tested when things get really tough. And that's what I love about Jiu-Jitsu. That's what I love about strength training. That's what I love about deadlifting this barbell every single day, is it's testing my character. Okay. The second reading St. Paul talks about, this is something that just kind of gave me comfort, I guess, is, in these videos, in this deadlift series, I've been talking about some stuff more than fitness. I've been talking more, it's been more spiritual, more religious. I know that. But I feel like this is something that needs to be said in our current day and time. Because we're taught to we're taught to give up our religion, right? And so anyway, I'm like, I just had these thoughts, and I'm just like, man, do people even want to hear this? I don't even know if guys want to hear this, right? I allowed myself to fall to the vanity metrics. I notice when I talk about more spiritual / religious stuff, when I'm sharing things like this, I see the viewership, I see the views and whatnot, and they definitely go down. I'm like, damn, do people even want to hear this? I don't know. But I just feel like it's something that needs to be said. But there's something St. Paul said in that second reading. So again, I met with adversity, so I could easily quit, give up, and just switch back. I'm just going to talk about the strength training because maybe that's what guys want to hear. Like, man, just give me the strength training. But I feel deep down in my core, call it my soul, that this needs to be said, and maybe that people do want to hear it, and that it's not going to go on deaf ears. And so I could either quit and switch, or just keep doing what I'm doing. And what's making me continue to do what I'm doing is St. Paul says, therefore, my beloved brothers and sisters, be firm, steadfast, always fully devoted to the work of the Lord, knowing that in the Lord your labor is not in vain. That right there gave me everything I needed to know. That knowledge, that wisdom that I heard from the Lord is what I needed to hear, and why I'm going to continue, why I'm going to continue this message when I feel like it's needed, I'd been feeling uncertain about, what I'm sharing is indeed what I ought to be sharing. And St. Paul's words, put me at ease. Because honestly, sometimes I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no idea what I'm going to be talking about. I have no idea what I'm going to be sharing or if it's even something the audience wants to hear, what you want to hear. What do men really want? Should I be talking about this? Should I be talking more about strength training? These are just thoughts that go through my head, man. And I'm just sharing that with you. All I know is I can trust in the Lord. I know that he leads my thoughts. And the truth is I'm exactly where I need to be. And I'm talking about the exact things I need to be talking about. I'm sharing exactly what I'm supposed to be sharing. Just as the Lord said to Solomon, he will give me what I didn't ask for. By focusing on him, And then the Alleluia, which is kind of like an in-between, like a setup for the gospel. The Alleluia is pulled from a piece of scripture, and it says, shine like lights in the world as you hold on to the word of life. And I feel like that's what I'm doing, sharing the readings, unpacking my thoughts, is how I can shine in the world. And hopefully I can, again, even if there's 3 people that listen to this, those 3 people, this is my greatest gift, I guess, back to the world. Right? Me sharing about my thoughts. Because, again, this may be the only exposure, the few men that listen to this may be the only exposure they have to religion, to the gospel. And I know, trusting in the Lord's word, that my labor will not go in vain. And the last part, Jesus talks in the gospel, he says, can a blind lead a blind person? Again, I talked about this in the giving up your power episode, right? When in the gold episode, giving up your power, and it's just like how many people trust in? Oh man, my wife and I were talking about this again last night. It's just we trust in essentially the occult. A lot of people are going to that stuff because it's, I don't know, sexier. I have no idea. But trusting in mediums and tarot cards and palm readers and trusting in all this stuff, these are blind. You're trusting in people that are finite, right? That's the blind leading the blind. But something that he says here, he says, no disciple is superior to the teacher, but when fully trained, every disciple will be like his teacher. What character does your teacher have? Because if you study under somebody, whether it's you hire a coach, a mentor, a business, like whatever, a spiritual mentor, a strength coach, someone that's going to help you attain your goals, what is his character like? Does he quit when times get tough, or does he continue moving forward? Because what is it Jim Rohn said? Like, we're the average of the 5 people that we spend the most time with, right? And if you spend a lot of time with your mentor, if you're meeting once a week with him or something like that, you're going to become like him. So you just have to be very mindful of who it is that you're listening to. Even me, even listening to this stuff. Just be very mindful of the knowledge and the wisdom someone's trying to implant into you. Is that wisdom coming from a broken, defected person? Because that's what we all are. Or is that wisdom, because remember the wisdom that we talked about earlier, the proverb, the Lord gives wisdom. From his mouth comes knowledge and understanding. Are we choosing the right mentor? I know I am. Choosing Jesus, choosing the Lord, and taking his knowledge and wisdom. And that whole, like, do you notice a splinter in your brother's eye but not the wooden beam in your own? Like, how easy is it for us to pass judgment on people? And I'm not passing judgment on anybody, but a lot of this stuff I'm sharing, guys, just know I'm talking about me. I'm talking about me, okay? But it's easy for us to, hey, you're not doing this right, right? When it's ourselves also. So, to me, this says take care of your own house first. Take care of yourself first. Get your life in order. Get your spiritual life in order. Get stronger. Become stronger mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. Get stronger in your community. And the first community that you're responsible for is a community of your own home, your own domestic church, your wife and your kids. Get good there. Make your bed first before you ask your kids if they've made their bed, right? These are crucial things that we need to do. So, and this is why, the whole blind leading the blind, this is why, like when it comes to, let's say, health, strength training, like an overweight person cannot guide an overweight person. A weak person cannot guide another weak person, right? if you're trying to attain a specific result, if you're trying to build a deadlift, you're trying to do certain things, you need to seek out people that have already done that, right? This is why you can't rely on your spouse. I always hear guys, well, let me talk to my wife first. She can't help you. You cannot rely on your spouse, right, for the work that only you can do, right? This is why men need a community. This is why men need mentorship. Men need other men further along the journey than themselves, right? Because the truth and the reality is, men cannot learn life lessons. Men cannot learn masculinity. Men cannot learn these things and be better men from men their own age or from men that are on the same path of the journey as themselves. They need men further along the journey. And that's again, one of the things I love about Jiu-Jitsu is you are going to be in a community of other men who are further along the journey than you are. So that's it, man. That's how you test a man's character. Put him under pressure. And when he's under pressure, his true character will be revealed. So that's it, man. So what I want to share with you today. Appreciate you watching these videos. Peace.